Yeah.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Uncultured Universe, where we introduce movies, TV, music, and books to each other just to get a little bit more cultured. I am your host, Justin, and with me, as always, in the Uncultured chair is Joe. But you'll also notice for the visual learners in the room, we have a guest joining us today, our very first ever guest, playing part.
Oh,
First
Oh
guest?
shit! Yeah, literal first guest.
What?
Yeah,
we didn't
but
tell you that.
yeah, I know. Playing part of the semi-cultured, we got Matt Hobbs here. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, it's like a semi-sweet, like a 65% cacao.
Yeah, not
We're
full cacao. Yeah.
we're really doing a spectrum of culture today,
Mm.
and I'm glad Justin is the one really leading the way on this one.
Yeah, I'm playing conductor. You guys are my, second and third fiddle, respectively, and you guys can figure out who lands where. So now you guys may notice and recognize the name Matt Hobbs from his viral feel-good channel and brand Puppy Songs from TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and the likes. Um, but Matt, you want to, just introduce yourself. Get used to the arena of Uncultured Universe.
It feels good to be in the arena. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Since the first days. I want to say one of the first discussions of what this was may have happened partly on my front porch
It did.
house that I used to live at. And it's just really cool to join y'all here in this form many years later.
Yeah,
Just
literal years later. This was at the height of the pandemic, early times where we were still doing porch hangs.
yep.
And I think Joe just said, like, what if we did a podcast? And yeah, the
Just
rest was history.
deep COVID days. The early days of this podcast were really trying to capture some of the magic of us just hanging out on the porch, trying to avoid sickness that was on the winds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And ever since then, it's kind of interesting. Matt's kind of been somewhat of a presence episode to episode because I wasn't here for this, but he helped put together our initial podcast intro. Was that correct, Justin?
Yeah,
The music.
I did the rough cut of it, and I took it to Matt and took it to his studio. I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, can we cut the full demo?" And you're like, "Absolutely, we can."
Yeah. That was that ripping surf rock, springy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
very Beach Boys.
Yeah.
so Matt was basically playing Bruce Dickinson in the cowbell sketch, like asking Justin to throw another one down.
Yep. It was
Um,
that for 3 hours.
It did take 3 hours and many, many takes, and, patience was wearing thin.
That's how it goes.
But yeah, it was a good time. So, like, I'm so glad that we finally got Matt on an episode because that was the original conceit of just like, "Hey, let's" Joe and I were originally gonna do like, "Hey, let's show Matt all of the Marvel movies, all the MCU movies, and then we'll do a
no,
podcast about it."
'Cause I've still
no.
never seen any of them.
Yeah,
And
I saw Matt's life flash before his eyes thinking about
just
that.
hours wasted,
Mhm.
hours flying out the window. But here we are years later, and we have this unique storm of elements going on right here that we'll peel back the onion and the layers to.
Yeah.
But today, on this particular episode, we're going back to the television and looking at the beloved by many children across the globe, but also equally, if not more, emotionally damaging to full-grown adults, the Australian smash hit Bluey animated television show. So I'm really excited to talk about this one and look at this from many perspectives. But first, before we dive into any of the goods, let's do a quick little icebreaker. Now, Matt, being a longtime listener, you know that me and Joe love to play games.
Yeah.
And often of the silly nature.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
this one is no different. So we're gonna do a game here, and there's only 7 questions, but I'm pitting you two against each other, which is really fun because we've
Oh,
never done this before. So it's really
okay.
just whoever gets the most points at the end of these 7 questions is the winner.
Okay.
So the game that we're playing is called Nar or Nar Nar. So very similar to Deal or No Deal.
Wait, what are the two? Nar or what?
Nar nar.
Nar.
No or no?
Nar like NAUR. I'm
Correct.
assuming here.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're all familiar with the the jabbing and jibing at the Australian accent of how they say pronounce words that end in the letter O.
Mhm.
Often it's overextended, but it still makes hilarious content nonetheless. So all your answers must be in the form of an R word. So
Okay.
there's an actual answer, but just give it to me in the
Okay.
R Australian.
Okay.
Good to go? Everyone feel good?
Let's
Are
do this.
we wait. Are we trying to beat each other to the answer, or are you switching off between us?
Whoever beats off the first, whoever beats the other, buzzing in.
What kind of show is this? Okay.
It is explicit. Um,
We are explicit in the podcast app, yes.
So I'm going to ask the question, and as soon as I'm done answering the question or asking the question, buzz in however you feel like, whether it's a catchphrase or whatever you want to say, and then give me the
Okay.
answer.
Okay.
So Matt,
Okay.
you could say "Shalama lama ding dong." Matt,
Great.
Joe, you could say "My name is Joe." Whatever you want.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Question number 1: What common household card game features such moves as wild, draw 4, or reverse? Matt.
That's gonna be Unar.
Correct, Matt. 1 for Matt. That is 1 for Matt. Question number 2: What famous Bob Marley song is about a young man realizing that without a lady in his life, he won't be sad?
Oh.
My name is Joe.
Joe, yes, go ahead.
That would be Nar woman no Nar cry.
Almost had to count it against you, Joe. Well done.
Oh.
I forgot about the second no.
That's right. That's Nar Women, Nar Cry. Great. Question 3: When writing a love note to your paramour and you want to add some extra oomph, how would you represent little hugs and kisses?
Oh, brr, brr.
Matt.
That's XR, XR, XR.
Yep, that is correct.
Yeah.
Well done. Question 4: famous sapphic artist Chapel Roan has a song and dance where she demonstrates how to spell the title.
My
of
name
the
is
song.
Joe.
Joe, go ahead.
I'm cutting in.
Yeah.
This is hot to gar.
Archagar. Could you do the dance for me? How does it go? It's
I think it's H R
Yeah.
T T R G R.
very good.
Beautiful.
I love it. Question 5. Uh, in need of shelter in frigid temperatures, but only surrounded by large blocks of ice, what could you build?
Oh, that's that's an
Matt.
Iglar.
Iglar. Question 7. What would be another word for an enemy or a nemesis? Another word for enemy or nemesis.
Another word for enemy or
Oh,
nemesis.
it's
Matt.
it's a far.
Far. Yeah. Friends or fars. All right. And question 7 here, Joe, you need this to just retain your dignity.
I'm gonna go for it.
What notable horror film remake from this past year features the iconic vampire Count Orlok?
Oh, my name is Joe.
Joe.
This is Nosferatu.
This Narsh for what? What?
Not where am I putting the R? Nosferatu.
Wherever it applies.
Nosferatu? You want me to say that?
Yeah.
just layer it on.
As thick as you can. That's great.
Wow.
That's great. Well done. That was Nar or Narnar. You guys
Wow.
did fantastic.
Justin, you
And
never fail.
apologies to the entire island.
Outstanding.
We love Australia.
We love Australia. Okay, so that was icebreakers. So now we're going to do something different. So normally we've been experimenting with the new format, Matt. I'm sure you are familiar, where we do like a little surface level stuff. We could do a segment called Thoughts and Prayers, where it's just surface level
Mm-hmm.
talk about the subject that is of the hour, and then we do a main course where we dive into the big stuff. But since we did, um, a television show, Bluey, and I gave you guys 7 episodes to look at. This
Mhm.
segment, thoughts and prayers, is going to be the largest one. So let's dive into some thoughts and prayers. Excellent. Love that. Here we go. So
These are
Bluey,
great.
let's just dive into some fun facts here. And then I'll get some background and stuff from you guys. So, Bluey, it debuted in 2018. The show's creator, Joe Brum, his childhood pet dog was named Bluey. That's so cute.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nar.
It's,
no.
this one little detail I love so much, and I don't know if you guys knew this already, but the children actors, the voice actors on the show, their identities are kept private,
I mean,
which
that's
is
good.
that's so
That's
awesome.
great.
And I think it's literally every one of them, because there are many children throughout the show that are voiced and many different voice talents.
Yeah.
But have them all be kept private, I think, is a testament that goes into the amount of care and everything that they put into this show. And literally, this show has won just like all of the awards and so many, and gotten hundreds of like literally hundreds of nominations in the 3 seasons that they've released, which is
Wow.
insane. I didn't even want to put any up just because there's just so many.
Wow.
Um, but so yeah, with some of that kind of just like broad first layer of butter on the piece of toast, Matt, give me some of your initial kind of like familiarity with Bluey, and what you bring to the table in terms of culture and experience to this.
I um I am a new dad in the world. I have a 1-year-old, and we have started consuming media together in small doses, and Bluey is one of 3 things that he watches. Um,
Right.
Mostly because I just heard so much lore about it before having a kid. And so, I had seen by the time we talked about joining this episode, I had seen I felt like surely most of season 1. I was 30 or so episodes into season 1, but there's so many episodes.
There's so many.
So I
Many.
I had seen some of season 1 is what I'll say at the time.
Mhm.
And I had seen some of the ones we talked about and a few others that we bounced around. But yeah, I came into this with a kind of a growing curiosity about it, and we enjoy it. I think at this point I enjoy it more than my son does. But
Oh, yeah.
he's
Some
he's he's more into other shows, but in general, he's fine with this in small doses.
Yeah, this one's kind of, it can swing from, like, really calm and, like, peaceful sort of observational television kind of a thing that they can kinda just watch and just have it just wash
Mhm.
over them, and then
Yeah.
other times it's kind of, like, amped up. The
Mhm.
music's a lot more jovial and flashy stuff and things like
Mhm.
that. So, it's pretty fun.
It's definitely like for children, and it's setting out to like teach lessons and walk kids through scenarios, but that doesn't really take away from the fact that this is probably like it's so impressive that they're able to do all of this within little 12-minute chunks. Like I'm going through all of these episodes, I was so surprised by how immersed I was right from the bat, because they have to do things basically 3 times faster than normal episodes of television that I'm used to watching, and I still feel that same arc in
Mhm.
place.
Yeah, absolutely. That famously, Bluey's episodes are about 7 to 7.5 minutes each, and I think
Mhm,
that is including titles.
mhm,
I could be mistaken on that last part, but
Yeah.
they struck the balance between like that sweet spot. So like something else like Peppa Pig and some other children's stuff is like 5 minute episodes,
Mm.
and typical like segments for most modern television or whatever is like 15 minutes, 14 to 15 minutes. So this one kind of straddles that, like, a little bit longer than 5 minutes, so they kind of have a little bit more time to lay the groundwork and kind
Mhm.
of get you invested in the stories and the characters and kind of really hook into the theme that they may be talking about, because each episode has, there's many layers that you can peel back if you want to, but usually
Mhm.
there's like a subplot or like a sub layer of something going on. And
mhm,
that has always impressed me the most, of just like you mentioned, Joe, of just like it's such a tight turnaround of a story to tell, and they are telling some wildly complex
Yeah.
stories, and in like immediately engrossing stories from, like you said, like you've never even, uh, uh, well, actually, you know what, Joe? I don't want to make any assumptions. Tell me about your familiarity with Bluey.
Um, so I have a cat, and that is the extent of my parentage. So I don't have kids. So
You're a great dad, though, to
I
to Fitz.
I've never seen a lot of Bluey up until now, but I do have a young 2-year-old nephew who lives like right now a few streets away from me, and so I have begun to watch more kids television through him. And so Bluey's part of that now. And I had also just like heard from people that I know or people that I listen to on other podcasts, even who are like young parents, saying that Bluey, just watching it as an adult, is like one of the best written shows ever. Um,
Mhm.
in terms of just like again the feat of like how compact it is and what it's able to do in that time is incredible, and how it's able to touch on these like moments of childhood but moments of parenting so simply.
Yeah.
Um, and that was one of the I mean, I'll get into it when we talk about just like larger themes, but that was one of the things I loved about the show is like how it would have these moments that I realized I've never even seen on like kids television before, and it would like gloss over them a little bit. Like Bluey just being on the toilet for one episode. Like you'd never see that on a show that
Yeah.
growing up, or like so many like little like pee breaks that they're taking, and it's like this is just normal kid stuff.
Yeah.
Like me, like seeing a lot more of like my young niece and nephew these days, like toilet stuff is all over the place. Like that's 24/7.
That's pretty much like, yeah, the whole day's kind of activity. Yeah.
It's like refreshing in a way to see that just put so simply on a show like this.
It's very slice of lifey. It's very peel back the veil of like, this is what real parenting looks like.
Mhm.
And as a parent watching this is just like, oh, this is 100% accurate on so many levels of um, a thing that they're heavily lauded for is that like their depiction of Bandit, the dad, is so many miles ahead of like what you traditionally see in animated dad stuff.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
is present. He is attentive. He plays like so hard. His imagination and his commitment to the bit is honestly really inspiring as a parent to be
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
oh, I need to play harder like that because look at that. That looks like so much fun.
Yeah.
Um,
It
yeah.
extends the play in a safe way that it's essentially supporting the kids' play where it already started
Hmm.
and taking it somewhere that an adult could facilitate that a kid might not a lot of times. And that's like that shared experience that they have. It's like it's really yeah, it's inspiring. It's like commit to the bit, but at the same time too, I don't know if you've ever seen much about horizontal parenting.
Mm,
It's
I'm
where
not
you're
familiar.
lying down. It's how many things you can do or entertain a kid while you're completely lying down because you're exhausted.
It's like you're
Yeah.
And
literally
so
horizontal.
You're quite
there's a,
horizontal.
there's a few things. There's a few like things I've seen in this show where it's like, oh, he's just trying to lie down and rest, which is funny because that's also a part of it.
It's very
Um,
true.
but yeah, it's authentic for sure.
It's incredibly authentic, and I dig that very much. But yeah, so I honestly was a little apprehensive jumping onto the Bluey bandwagon because its reputation preceded it so heavily.
Hmm.
Living in the TikTok sphere and just consuming all of that new parent media and stuff like that, it's like you have to watch Bluey. It is like required watching as a parent. But
Hmm.
be warned, fair traveler, because it will reduce you to tears in in certain spots and also make you question your entire childhood as well at the same time.
Oh, I had at least one bullet point underneath my notes for each episode that was just like,
Yeah, 100%.
Usually at these like little surprise endings that they throw at you in the last 10 seconds of the episode that
Hmm.
kill me.
They'll get you. They're so good. But eventually took the plunge and love just how bingeable it is, how easy it is to consume, and then that
Hmm.
makes it easier to come back and rewatch over and over again because there are 152 episodes or something like that, but they're all 7 minutes that you can just go back and rewatch.
So
Um,
uh, the the one time we did a TV show before this was Bob's Burgers, and I was kind of in the cultured seat then. And Justin, I don't know how you felt, but it was just a mind fuck of a feat trying to pick the episodes that would like show you the show from my perspective. And I think I only got to pick like 4, and I was like, okay, I got to pick which ones have the best characters, which ones have the best stories, which ones have the best like funny moments, which ones have the best like musical moments. And I I like the spectrum of episodes that you picked for a variety of different reasons and like dimensions.
Yeah, and I was cognizant of that, but also leaned heavily into initial instincts of just like I remember these were the ones that honestly stuck out to me the most upon my first encounters and viewing of them. Of just like, oh, absolutely, 100%, it's the first
Mm.
episode. Got to show them that one, and then it's like, yes, got to do this one. That one like wrecked me. I have to talk about this one with somebody else, and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to share that, but talking about the Bob's Burgers episodes, like those were great because it was a good ramp up of emotional stakes
Hmm.
because like you gave me a good introduction to the family and like some of the hijinks they can get into, but then some of the episodes like had these emotional deep underpinnings that had I not had some of those, the foundational work, it would not have hit as hard, which is great.
It's a
Mhm.
curation. It's a smorgasbord.
It's a
Mhm.
smorgasbord for sure. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive in and start talking about these episodes, and we'll kind of keep it, kind of loosey goosey. But season 1, episode 1, and uh, I'm not actually going to do the numbers because I realized late I gave you guys the wrong numbers. Um,
Where did you get those from?
the internet, I don't know.
Uh,
So, and I think those are probably the international listings, which is fine. But season
Uh,
1, Magic Xylophone, which is the first episode out the gate. I thought I chose this one because obviously this is like usually everyone's kind of first introduction to the Healer family and kind of just like what the whole crux of the show
is
is.
their last name Healer?
Healer, like Heeler,
Yeah,
like the dog.
like the
is that
dog.
is that the type of dog they are?
Yeah, they are.
Blue
Bluey is a
Healers.
blue healer. Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's clever.
There's so many clever dogisms throughout, and
Yeah.
I'll be sure to point them out.
It's
Um,
a it's a world of dogs, right? It's only dogs.
correct.
There's not like a
Mhm.
cat or anything in there somewhere.
I don't believe there's a cat. I think it's just dogs living in Australia,
Yeah.
which is great.
Mhm.
But yeah, this first episode really sets the stage, introduces the characters in kind of a easy get to know them kind of phase, and also paints just like the broad brushstrokes of the world. It's these two sisters, Bluey and Bingo. One's older, one's younger. Sometimes dad stays home, sometimes mom stays home, sometimes they got to go to work. Very relatable in this modern day. But they live to play. They live to role play. They love to explore and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted, kind of just open the floor and kind of like initial thoughts. This was the first episode. What do you guys think?
I think the first thing that stood out to me, I've seen a number of these, but this one with the commitment to like layers of storytelling all at the same time.
Hmm.
So the first thing I noticed when rewatching this one, because I had seen this one before, was how quickly they established who all the characters were,
Hmm.
the world. Like Act One was like, I mean, it might have been 35 seconds.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then historically, I don't know if you've looked at like the Save the Cat 3-act structure. Act 2 is where the section fun and games normally is. And that's
Right.
where literally the fun and
Fun and
games
games
are.
happen. Yeah.
So between just like the efficiency of setting up the storytelling that's there, the visual storytelling, and the overlay of hitting that chorus in Rondo La Turca,
Hmm.
bruh, 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 like that hit every time the dad would bust out or every
Hmm.
time he would get freed. And just like, I don't know, it's rare to see something like that where music and visuals and plot and just all the devices are telling the same story using different tools.
Hmm.
And um that to me was what was like why it almost feels cinematic and just so complete and immersive. um and the thing that stood out to me the most was when the dad when they drew on him, and then later that mustache would be a villain mustache. So I was
Right.
like, oh, did they play this last time where the dad always turns into a villain? So they know to draw the Snidely Whiplash mustache on him.
Maybe.
I don't know. I was like, that was something I was
That's a
wondering.
good move. Yeah.
But yeah,
But
this
yeah,
one.
I knowing that especially Matt, your background in theater and musical theater specifically, that you would appreciate this a
Mhm,
lot because of the not only the musical pieces that they're pulling from, but the cinematic feel of it. Just and the efficiency as well.
mhm,
Joe, you got some thoughts here?
I I I think this first episode really illustrates how much of this show is about what's like kind of subtle and unspoken in storytelling. It's like you're saying, Matt, these like musical cues that kind of lead someone's mind along the story without really spelling it out, but also you kind of get the feeling that this story is for and from the perspective of kids. And I clocked it like a few different times throughout these episodes where it gets a little like magical realist a little bit, where like the xylophone almost like really does freeze the dad, and
Mhm.
you can't really tell like is this actually magical, or is the dad just like that much of an
mm,
actor, because like they're drawing on like his eyeballs and stuff while he's frozen. And so you don't know like if this is just like their imaginary world, or if it's just like he's just really committing to the bit, and this is what like good parenting is.
Mhm.
And then my my other note on this episode, I got a little bit.
Oh,
Whoa!
what?
I was trying to think of like the best time to whip this out. Um,
Anytime.
the My other note on this episode is like if you have siblings, it's so easy to recognize like these oftentimes like Bingo, who's the younger one, and Bluey, who's the older one, aren't fighting, but they're kind of at a they're opposing each
Mhm.
other
Mm,
Yeah.
in ways. And Bluey, being the older, doesn't necessarily tell Bingo what to do or force her what to do, but tries to convince her that it's what Bingo wants to do,
She's a gaslighter?
which is
Yeah.
like
yeah.
such a real thing. That again, like the story, the show doesn't like draw attention to that. It's almost just like part of the characterization, but it's something you pick up on immediately
If
as
you
like,
are, yeah.
oh, someone with siblings wrote this episode or something like that.
Which I appreciate. And okay, so I have a younger sister, but 9 years younger, so we are not anywhere near this bubble that Bluey and Bingo are. So I was curious at, at any point in any of these episodes of just like, yes, this is authentically younger sibling syndrome or older sibling syndrome, that kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And it feels authentic and it feels real of like, oh, that seems like a thing.
Yeah, and it's portraying like, obviously these episodes are kind of on kind of like a shorter timeline, so they have to wrap things up a little quicker. You don't get these like days long feuds and grudges between siblings, but it is portraying like a healthier way to go about these conflicts, and a way for the parents to get involved and like steer these girls on the right path here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This one's definitely the lightest of the episodes, but there is still some of like the deeper underbelly of it of like Bluey sometimes steamrolls Bingo,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
Bingo sometimes gets steamrolled by the whole family, as we'll talk about in another episode. But um, yeah, I think it's sometimes those things are interesting. It's not just like very surface level they're going to play or they're going to have a disagreement. It's like no, like there's something going on here
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that leaves a lot of room for storytelling later. Um,
Yeah. I think the show is also really good at showing like sometimes parents can get exhausted and kind of like lose track or take their eye off the ball when it comes to the kids, and when they do that, usually it's the older sibling who wins in that
mhm.
situation. And
Yeah.
so there's a level of unfairness there that's just natural, that the show does a good job of pointing out when it comes to Bingo in a lot of these episodes.
Yep. Yeah, Bingo gets the short end of the stick, a lot of the time, which sucks. Sucks for her, but yeah, so, let's move on. Let's talk about camping. Okay, so I chose camping. This is way later in the season, but this was one of the first ones that I remember seeing that really, really caught me off guard
Mhm.
of like, "Oh, this show can do so much with 2 seconds with 3 seconds of a line reading. Um, for some reason, the ending just absolutely wrecks my heart for some reason, and I cannot explain it. But maybe some of you can. But I chose this one because I really love this episode a lot. Thoughts?
Um, Matt, go ahead. We're doing a little roundtable here.
Oh man, I mean, this one had multiple devices in it. The device of planting the seed
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and watching that grow and watching it not like the timing of things and just the reality of all of it. I mean, I think it's fascinating, like when the way that the Bluey and
Jean
French
Jean-Luc.
Jean-Luc
Jean-Luc.
French dog are playing and they keep finding ways to communicate better, but don't get frustrated with each other when they
So
don't.
such
They
a kid thing. I
they
love that.
reset their goldfish and just forget about what made it difficult, and they just hit it back hard, excited, after they had the miscommunication and they found a better way to do it, which I thought was just hit in stride,
Mhm.
in problem solving and not getting hung up on that. And then, I mean, I think the line at the end of that was really powerful. I think the dialogue is really concise. But Bluey asked, will I ever see John Luke again? And I believe it was the mom who said, the world is a magical place. You never know.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just think like it's already gone. It's like maybe. It's a
Mhm.
nice maybe. But it's I don't know. There's just a lot of reality and hope mixed in. And I just think that one hit me for sure.
It's a
Yeah.
magical it definitely is a magical one of just, like, the innocence of childhood playing. Like, there's 0, um, judgment of, like, you speak a different language than me. It's like, we're 2 kids and we're in the bush, like, we're gonna play together and no
Mhm,
matter what, and there's an unspoken connection between them. Um, and, different nationalities and backgrounds and stuff, like, be damned, it doesn't matter. We're still gonna play and we're still gonna find a way.
mhm,
Um, and then, there's something really, uh, I'm sure we've all moved around a couple times. I'm sure we've all had to change schools or have a friend move away, that kind of a thing. So feel like that's a universal feeling that anybody can tap into. Um, but yeah, like the line of what Chili is saying, the mom, that sometimes people come into your life and they leave, and sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't, is so and being a parent too, like she's saying that while holding Bingo peeing outside.
mhm,
She's saying it off the dome, but it's like it's so profound and so applicable to not only this situation, but everything else. It is so great. And then like Jean-Luc, he obviously, it's like 16 years later or whatever, because they're teenagers, but he knows English and he says, "Hello, Bluey." And it's so
mhm,
precious.
Yeah. So many of these episodes are just like exploring the concept of play and what it means to play and
Hmm.
mhm,
how play and learning are so often like the same thing, even if they're not the always the exact same thing.
Hmm.
And like this episode in particular is focused on like, oh, play doesn't have to have like a language barrier. These kids can understand things inherently, and it can cross that barrier in that way. And then yeah, I was saying like the endings of these episodes got me so often, and this is kind of the first. This is the second episode we watched, and it was the first time I was like, wait, what type
What's
of show is
what's happening
this?
to me?
They're doing these weird things. They're experimenting with these cool little things. It's these little moments that like you don't necessarily see in a show like this, where they're exploring these ideas. They're doing these like time jumps and stuff, which there's you never think like, oh, there's a rule against that in kids shows like this, because there's not. It's just
mhm.
like I've never seen it explored in this way, a
Yeah.
show doing cool stuff like this for this type of audience.
Yeah, bravery, bravery. We love to see it. This episode is an introduction to the sister's cousin Muffin, who's at the beginning. Um, she's the gray and black little one. Um, we'll have to do a follow up episode later in the year, exploring the chaotic element that is Muffin, which is fun. But yeah, I love this one so much. It's so fun, and this was also one where like the animation is really neat.
Oh
The
yeah.
Mhm.
just like the outside play, and then when they turn off the night light outside, and it's like, ooh, stars! Like it's
Uh,
Mhm.
so cool, so cool. A visual treat.
they even thought of when they both draw themselves, when they decide to visually depict how they're going to sneak up on the pig.
Hmm.
Um, each they drew Bluey with pointy ears
Hmm.
and John Luke with rounded ears
Yeah,
in the basic like stick figure
yeah,
drawings of the two
caveman
characters.
style. Yeah,
It's
very
just
fun.
yeah, I think it's the big part about all of it is how distilled and focused it is. Like
Mm.
I
Mhm.
wonder, like every element is load bearing. Every choice,
Ooh.
Is on
every
purpose.
it's on purpose, and it's being concise and making something simple is hard.
It is.
And the ability to like do that and just be delivered in a way that's compelling. I think music and the just a beautiful episode really helps because it also
Yeah,
lets you be in that world. Because a lot of times you're watching these on lower volume, and
yeah.
so you don't always get the full music vibe, but visually it's still really compelling.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the music because we listen to Bluey radio on Spotify a lot, like a lot of the time. And anytime the camping motif comes up, I'm immediately kind of just a lot softer. I'm a lot more in my emotions in that time
Mhm.
because I'm thinking of my reaction to that show or to
Yeah.
that particular episode.
Well,
It's great.
I think it's I mean it's rare too to have like a score.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this show is scored. Like, somebody was like, "Oh, you gotta watch Bluey. You like the music. You should watch it because they got the music." And for in my head, I thought it was gonna be songs. I always thought it was
Mm,
gonna be songs.
I
It's
was
not
I was
songs,
picturing songs too, like
but
Bob's
it's
Burgers or
not.
something like that.
It's yeah, it's not like the which is a huge inspiration for my work are the Bob's Burgers songs, especially
Mhm.
from those first 3 seasons. And like, no, this is just beautiful storytelling using, a handful of instruments and building a sound palette and expanding on it.
yeah. Joff Bush is the composer,
Mhm.
music mastermind behind the entire show, and uh, I don't know like what partnerships he has or whatever, but like he's able to do some really magical stuff
Yeah.
with the soundtrack. One last detail with camping, when the last thing that you can see from Bluey, she looks over and she hears "Hello Bluey," tail wagging, her tail wags.
Mhm.
It's very sweet.
Oh.
It's very
I mean,
sweet.
yeah, Matt, I love the concept of load bearing, like how like not a second of screen time is wasted in this 6 or 7 minutes that we have with these characters. You really have to
Yeah.
map out
Everything's on
every
purpose.
second of it.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in the writing room and just kind of see that process because there's so much that they have to cut,
Mhm.
obviously.
Be
Um,
hard.
so hard. Season two, I picked three from season two. First one out the gate is dance mode. I love dance mode because it's honestly just because of the ending. The ending is so fun and speaks to the way that as a parent you kind of have to literally cut loose sometimes
Mhm.
and judgment be damned from anybody and everybody, and so much so that Bandit calls out, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing this for my kids,"
Mhm.
and proceeds to rip up the dance floor like a badass.
Mhm.
um, a little bit lighter of an episode, but there's still that underlayer of Bingo being kind of taken advantage of.
Dude, it was the heaviest for me. This one by far, I started therapy like 2 months ago,
Mm,
and, being the youngest of 3 boys and just having the train leave the station was like, "You want this, right? All right, cool. You're good, right?" And then like there's a line where where when they're in the car trying to digest it using the device, the yes no button,
oh,
which is what a neat thing to
Oh my
make that
god.
because like otherwise that would have been a very weird scene, a very boring scene of just people talking in the car.
mhm.
Mhm.
And it made it so much stickier. But like Blue is just like, but you said this was okay. this is confusing. Like
Yeah.
that's the line. And I've made a note of just, this is confusing, because like people aren't looking out for that. And everyone, it's easy to get steamrolled as the caboose of the family,
Yeah.
because it feels like you have to push back. And it's easy to live in that pattern where I think a lot of little people pleasers get born that way,
Yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
get conditioned that way,
Mhm.
or so I'm told in the last 2 months. And
People
Yeah.
and
people
continue.
pleasing boot camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that to me was like, that one to me, I mean, the music was funky and stuff, but man, wow. Like, how do you, like, what a specific, detailed, nuanced thing for families where they were all guilty, you
Yeah.
know,
Every single one was
they took
guilty of
advantage.
taking advantage of bingo for one reason or another. Yeah.
I think there was like a smart bit of writing. If I recall, I may be totally making this up, but like there's a couple times towards the beginning of the episode where they keep having to remind Bluey like the classic like use your inside voice or
Mhm.
something like that because
Oh
she's being
yeah.
too loud inside, and then that transitions at the end to them talking to Bingo about like what is your inside voice thinking versus what is like your outside
Outside
voice
voice.
saying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, beautiful. And I love this as like a four-hander between all of them. It's really like a family episode, and it really illustrates how like families, especially with like younger kids like this, can just have their own languages and their own like customs. Like, what is a dance mode
Yeah.
outside of just this family? This family's
Mhm.
like going about it like it's the rule of law, and all the other people on the street are like, "What's happening right now?"
Right.
Like so many families have that thing where like you say a phrase or you say a word and it's you're speaking a language that is inherent to just your family.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is a peek inside the window of the Healer family. Like this is what they do. They have dance mode, which is a very random thing.
Mhm.
And every family does it, and it's so fun to see. Um, but yeah, anytime this song comes on, I think about just like if if I'm ever called out in public, like of course I'm going to dance for my kid because that's what you do. Um, but yeah, this
Yeah.
one was great. I love this one. All right, next one. Sleepy Time.
Come on.
This one is the heaviest hitting for me. And by contrast, this one is not a heavy hitter for Ryan. Um, she said that she's like, for some reason, that one just doesn't make me cry. That one's just for some, I love it. It's beautiful, but like, doesn't for me. For me, this one wrecks me every single time. And I'll explain why in a second. But I chose this one just because of the way it tears me to shreds, but also it is gorgeous.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, score, everything just propels it to this other experience. Again, very cinematic. They go to space, but it's a dream sequence, and they keep pulling you back to the real world. The girls both have sleepwalking disorders,
Mhm.
apparently, which makes for hilarity. But this one is so good. Um, what do you guys think? What do you guys think?
I I like the setting of this one. I think the setting is very important. Like during the night. So I mentioned I live next to my sister now, and she has two small kids. And like what I've learned just from like watching her and being around her is like the sleepy time of it all, and during the night and putting kids to bed is where like the lines between reality and insanity just start to blur a little bit
Yeah,
more,
yeah,
especially when it comes to like, oh god, like you're dealing with a couple different kids right now, and so they're switching off and like the parents are like kind of going insane. But the episode does a good job of showing like there's these moments of true beauty that can happen like visually and emotionally within
mhm,
these moments of insanity, and like, oh, you're literally losing your mind from lack of sleep at this
right.
point.
Yeah, we don't live in that world of like, knock on wood, of like having to get up in the middle of the night and like sing to them 99 bottles of beer on the wall and walk them back to sleep only to find that your bed is now taken over. Like very funny gags, but the parallelisms of um, Bingo reliving out the books that she just read before bed and exploring the planets. but still keeps coming back to the sun, which is her mom's warmth, and it's just it's so good, so good.
Yeah, the layers in it were nuts. I mean, and the Jupiter's red spot was the dad's nuts.
It's hilarious.
Um,
Biscuits. He says
they
biscuits.
snuck that in. They snuck that in. But yeah, I mean, as someone who's the last year of my life has been about getting sleep and trying to maintain sleep, I can't imagine. For my son can't walk yet and come get us yet, but one day he will soon. And so
that is the thing that kills me about this episode, is that knowing that one day they're going to grow up. That kills me, because she says, like, I'm a big girl now, and it's like, no, you're not. You're still a kid. Like, what are you doing? Stop it.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that was epic. I also
good.
just felt a lot of like, I was like the sha la 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 la, that song from the dude flying
Oh
through space.
yeah.
It was Lebowski.
It was very Lebowski-esque
Very
in
Lebowski.
the storytelling, and I was waiting for some kind of like subtle nod. I don't know that I found
A
it. But
Viking or something.
I'm sure we could muster one if we had to. But yeah.
Apparently, like, when she gets like shot through space, like on the comet or whatever it is, to go straight to the sun. Apparently, that's a parallel to Space Odyssey 2001.
Oh.
And there's some other stuff. There's some like giant, big, sweeping musical motifs specific to the planets, which is great.
Yeah.
I thought the moment where she had to watch 17 years of her kids growing up while crying was a little bit too on the nose for Interstellar, but that's mainly
that's
my
just
artistic
Joe.
opinion.
Yeah.
No,
They
I
took
mean,
it too far.
I think we talk about like compact storytelling on this show, obviously, but like this is just another level, because you have, first off, it's like a full cast episode. It's all four of them doing different things, having their own little arcs within the episode, moving around the house in the middle of the night with different wants and stuff. The focus is on Bingo, and she's literally going through space and through the planets, and each planet somehow has like a little moment or a little lesson for her that is like catered in a way that fits into the overall story. Brings it back with the son, which is like the mom from the beginning of the story. And then I love how it ends with Chili on the bed by herself, and so she kind of gets her own arc in that way. Like the storyboarding complexities, I would love to see what their whiteboard looked like figuring out this episode.
The whiteboard and the Kanban board are just a mess. My parents got us like a book version of this episode. They sell like episode specific books sometimes for Bluey, which is weird.
Wow.
But they gave us this one, or they gave Jeannie this one holiday or whatever. And I couldn't read it the first time because I was crying so hard. I was like, I'm reminded of this episode by like thumbing through it and having to read, which was weird because there's hardly any dialogue.
Yeah.
So they're like, like Bingo goes to this space and that planet on this kind of thing. But it's the last ending page, and it's a big fold out, and it's like the whole like screen is the orange of the sun and the little tiny Bingo in front, dwarfed by it. Amazing.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's great. All right, so the next one,
Grandad. This one.
So good. Another sleeper episode, because you like it's a happy, funny, go lucky with Grandpa, but it's that deeper thing of, oh, this is more catered towards the parents taking care of their parents, requiring them, you need to take better care of yourself because I still need you. You are still my parent. So you need to stop it, slow down, because you're still needed. And that hurts. And also the last line hurts of like, no, that was just yesterday. And flashback, killer.
That was ridiculous. I yelled at the TV.
Joe's just like, no.
He said no.
Give me thoughts on Grandad.
I just the very casual world building of the show, very simple, but like suddenly we're in another location. It's very different. You're introducing this new character. I'm assuming like this is the introduction to Grandad. And like you don't really need to waste time like setting up much. It almost feels like this episode is like one take because it becomes a chase through the bush really quickly.
Yeah.
Wherein like lessons are established and then learned throughout all the characters at once while they're running from each other.
Yeah, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that
Um,
you gotta eat your pumpkin seeds so you can grow up big and strong
the
Mm-hmm.
is
pumpkin
great.
seeds.
Which is so funny because pumpkin, and I think maybe seeds specifically, are really good for dogs. It's really, really good for their health and its coat
Oh.
and stuff. And also the thing about like he just had heartworms
Yeah.
is so funny.
Hit
Like it's
heartworm.
typical heart condition for an older parent kind of a thing. But like
Mm-hmm.
literally when dogs have heartworms, they are not to exert themselves.
Can't get excited.
Can't get excited because their heart's going to over pump and pump more worms through their body. But like, I thought that's a funny detail of like
Mm-hmm.
real life dog stuff. Um, Matt, what do you think
I
about
think
Granddad?
all of this is true. I think this is a heavy one for the grown-ups, but I love how they added one little spice. The canoe. Very, very ownable, very quotable. Put it in a toy, put it on a t-shirt. It's at least one of the three kids in the room watching. It's their favorite thing to quote. They
Mm-hmm.
annoy the others with it. Like you have to like some of that. That's the rule of old children's programming is like, how is it ownable? How is it quotable? What's the game? And they put that little gem in there. It was very adorable.
I mean,
Because and they wanted it the whole time.
Yeah.
They wanted the canoe before they even got to the canoe, and then they had to canoe. Like, I mean, it was just, yeah. I mean,
It's great.
this was heavy. I mean, it was definitely heavy.
Yeah.
talking
Go ahead.
Well, Justin, what you said about the pumpkin seeds got me thinking. Like, I wonder if for a show like this in particular, they really do have to have like a binder with rules where it's like, this is what we're allowed to show the dogs eating, and this is what we're allowed to show the dogs not eating. Because
Oh,
like these kids are going to be doing this stuff with their
Yeah.
dogs.
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, there are episodes where the family eats a meal at the table, and I'm certain that like all the foods that are present are like dog safe.
Yeah,
You know,
they're
they're
never
not
going
gonna,
to like be eating a chocolate bar or something
of
like
course
that.
not. Yeah, or
Yeah.
anything that could be inherently dangerous or choke hazard, that kind of thing. But it's all, yeah.
Mhm.
Of course, every show has a show Bible, and that one has its own like dog section in the back, like
Sure.
big hefty thing of like drawing parallels to real life dogisms, which is great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this one's a
Our
fun heavy hitter.
our show Bible is just the sunglasses emoji.
But it's 100 pages and it's the same emoji.
It's the same one.
You think it's like a flip book,
Yeah.
and you try it and you look stupid because it's the same picture over and over again. um, but yeah, this one hurts because we are not older parents, but we waited to have kids. We're in our late 30s, so our parents are naturally older. So having those thoughts and having those kinds of things is just like, ugh. Well, damn it.
Mhm.
I'm concerned. I was concerned about my own parenting thing, and now I have to be a kid again. Shit.
Yeah.
I I also love the visual languages for showing age on this show because you're dealing with like cartoon dogs, and so you
Mhm.
have these like little fresh little girls in Bluey and Bingo, and then the parents kind of have like gray in the sideburns a little bit,
Yeah,
and then the
yeah.
grandpa is like full on like shaggy outback.
Mhm.
It's really fun.
It's a fun motif.
It's a fun visual language. I would love to see that visual brand Bible as well. So fun.
Their
Um,
style guide, yes.
Style guide, give
Mhm.
it to me. All right, season 3, we're now racing into season 3. Rain was the next episode I gave you guys. I love this one because it's a silent episode,
Yeah.
and it's so strong, and powerful, for a number of reasons. Like I love again, the score comes back. It's so like the mandolin and the jaunty Americana feel of it is so, um, again, just like children, innocence, play kind of a
Mhm.
thing. It's not, it's not plinky plonky on a keyboard kind of thing that you think of with kids music. It's like this is real constructed music, and it's really good, but it
Mhm.
elevates the story.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think about Rain?
It's I mean, this one was my favorite. I think it's an animation showcase more than anything. I love the way that they animate the water.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I've also absolutely tried to do that with a curb in the rain. So I can almost like feel her thought
Yeah.
process as she's going through trying to build a dam for the water.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I love the clever parallels around like Bluey versus Chili and how they both want the same sort of thing in different ways. So Bluey's trying to dam up this water. Chili's trying to dam up the house from Bluey entering and messing things up.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
how it then just it comes together in a nice way as of course it does at the end, which did surprise me how Chili ends up helping out with the dam in that way.
And she has like, of course it's a silent episode, but she says it all in her mannerism and her
Hmm.
face expression. Like, she steps out from behind Bluey and, like, steps in, and she looks up at her, and she kinda just, like, shrugs and, like, rolls her eyes. They're just like, "Of course I'm gonna be out here and help you because 'cause you're so close. Of course, duh. I'm gonna play with you." Super strong. And then the ending again is just so cool of just the cutaway of, like, it's raining again, let's go build the dam again, but
Hmm.
they don't have to you don't have to show it. It's implied that, like, they're running to go play again, and it's so sweet.
Yeah.
I love it.
I've seen things that are like for kids and as toddlers and little kids start to get into stuff. It's like, is it dangerous or is it inconvenient?
Mhm.
And for Chili, this was inconvenient. This was not what she originally wanted. But I think watching her come around to that and support it, and I think just appreciating how curiosity driven play, like we've all tried to dam the water or build the thing or
Mhm.
stack the things. Like it's just and I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one of the things that I've held on to for a long time, is that toddlers, kids, and stuff like that, they are little scientists. I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, honestly. They're little scientists. They are experimenting with their world that they've never seen before. So, and it goes back to like, well, is this harming? Is this harmful, or are they just exploring the thing?
Yeah.
And like, if they're pouring glass out, like that's an experiment. They're seeing like, I have a vessel and now it's empty, and it's
Mhm.
yes, you have to clean up the water. Yes, it's inconvenient, but it's like it's not hurting anything. It's not a big.
Yeah. That's
I
the
mean,
discovery. That's the learning through the play.
Mhm.
yeah, we were talking about this just the other night. My 2-year-old nephew is doing just that right now. His entire world is about figuring out and testing boundaries right now to negative and positive degrees.
Yeah.
And so he's living his life. He is running 8 to 12 experiments at any given moment, and kind of reporting back on hypotheses and data. And
Yeah,
like
which is
that
great.
is building his world in that way.
Mm.
It's so
And so
fun to
you have
see.
to it's important to give him the right data and give him the right feedback and put up the right walls in the right places.
Yeah, like, today, like, Jeannie and I went out and we played in the snow, and, like, we tracked snow and a little bit of wetness throughout the house, but it's just like, it'll dry. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But you can think of, like, maybe in your own household when you were growing up, or any other household that you may have, uh, be, I don't know, adjacent to, of just like, that would be a problem in other houses,
Mhm.
tracking snow and wet through the house. How dare
Mhm.
you?
Mhm.
Um, it's just water, man. It's no
Yeah.
big deal. Chill out and go play in the rain.
Mhm.
I love that episode. Last one, space or confronting your abandonment issues. Heavy
Oh
hitter.
my god.
Uh, this one is another beautiful episode. The sweeping shots of the wind through the grass, the panning shots from the crew as they're in cryo sleep, the exploration, the tunnel animation is super
Mhm.
cool. Um, and yeah, it's just being 6 or 7 years old and playing it to these hyper you know, elevated things of like we're going to space is so fun, and I remember doing that kind of stuff. But you're on the ground, but you're floating through. It's so cool. I love this one. But then the deep sucker punch of just like he's processing his trauma and he doesn't know how.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I had no idea what it was
No.
about. I was like, this is fine. I was like, this is a different episode. I was like, I appreciate the animation and the aesthetic detail and stuff, but I was like, where is this going? Like, how
Yeah.
it's the
Coming
first
off of Rain.
yeah.
Coming off the high that was Rain, and now we get this.
Yeah.
So I had the most notes about this one, and I was confused. This is the only one
Joe's
I
got
had to.
notes.
Joe's
This
got
is the
notes,
only
yeah.
one I had to Google at the end because all of my notes are like, Mackenzie, what's the deal? Is Mackenzie okay? What is the backstory with Mackenzie? Did we
Something's
know
wrong with
Mackenzie before this? Is
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie new?
Mackenzie's been introduced before. He is a Kiwi. He's from New Zealand. Everyone else is from Australia. So he's, a relative newcomer, I think, to the area. But he's been introduced in episodes previous. So, but this one is like centric on him of like what's wrong with Mackenzie, and
Coming
this
soon to Lifetime.
what's wrong with McKins. He's and this is a very common thing, which I didn't know, is that like kids process trauma through play. They may not be able to go to therapy and talk about it or even know how to process it. All he knows is that he wants to pretend that he's being left behind because he has something in the back of his mind
Mm,
that he needs to figure out. And
yeah.
also parallel, like he's chief science officer, and what's your job? To figure things out. So
It,
he's keeps going back to that.
it was crazy. I did have to Google Bluey space episode ? And there are articles written about this episode being like, what's going on here? And it was exactly that. It was about how this is like how kids can use play to process these things, and about how him going into the black hole is this is the only part that confused me. Like it's him going into a memory, but are they at school? Because like Bluey and them are there as well. Like is
Yeah,
that like his teacher or something?
so they're playing the when they're playing space, they're at school. This is like recess time or whatever. So the girls are playing on the other side of the tunnel,
I
playing
gotcha.
aliens, pretending to play
I thought it
aliens.
was like the sewers, and I was like, wait, why are they in the sewer?
No, no,
What
no, no, no.
is he
The other kids.
Is this
hallucinating?
it? Is this it? Is he cosplaying it? What is happening?
I'm
No,
gonna
they're
be
at
honest. I
school.
was like, is this like a death metaphor? What's
No,
happening?
this is deep. So the teacher that he comes across, Calypso is her name.
Clipsar.
Calypsar, she's their real teacher moment in time. They're 6 and 7 years old. She's their actual teacher. When he goes back in his memory of feeling abandoned, Calypso's not really there. Calypso didn't come up to him and say, "Oh, your mom's just over there." It's him processing somehow of like, "No, listen, Mackenzie, your mom's just over there. You
Mhm.
don't have to keep coming back here because you figured it out. That's why you feel like you want to play like this because you thought your mom left you behind." So he was probably lost for an indeterminate amount of time, maybe a
Mhm.
couple minutes, but enough to scar him in some way where he feels like he needs to play that way, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Crazy.
Whew.
Heavy stuff.
Whew.
Choo.
Sheesh. The
Phew.
kids, do the kids still say sheesh? I think so.
I forgot about that.
Sheesh.
Sheesh. But this one's a great one. I thought that's so, uh, I'm going to call it brave that they're like, you know what? We can tell this story.
It's different. Yeah.
It's
We're in
definitely
season
different.
3. What do you want to do with this episode called Space? Talk to me about space. It's like, oh, I want to talk about abandonment issues. And it's like, shit. Okay, go on.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
on. How do we get into
I
that?
bet every one of these is mined. I mean, when you have the world built out, you just lead with that theme and you lead with that objective because it is moral. It is moral storytelling. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily, a hero's journey or anything like that. It's showing a moral a lot of these episodes. But you do see how people often like get what they need instead of what they want kind of
Mhm.
thing. And but yeah, I think like the theme is so embedded through all of this. And sometimes it's patiently developed like this one. I was just like, where is this going? Like
Where's the payoff?
I had no idea. It's like they kept going back and forth. We're gonna go to Mars. We're gonna go to the black hole. Why are we going to Mars? There's gonna be aliens. We're gonna go to black hole. We don't know what's there. There's not gonna be aliens. There's not aliens in Mars. Like they just did the same thing over and over again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think that also is accurate though.
That's how kids play. That's how
Yeah.
kids do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that in a big sweeping, put a bow on it. Those were the 7 episodes, and now let's just we'll do a quick little overview of what we think overall about Bluey. Give me that jazz. Give me that main course. Before I give you guys my thoughts, I want your sweeping thoughts, introductions, some deeper than others to Bluey. Just thoughts on Bluey. Give me the meat. Matt, give me the meat.
Mm,
Give me the beef.
the beef. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of really good. It's almost too rich. It's for me. It's almost too rich. Like I have trepidation turning on Bluey still because it's like, are we
What am I
doing
in
this?
for?
Are we doing this
Yeah.
right now? And
Yeah.
am I in a mental state between sleep deprivation or this or that or the other to go on a heavy journey right now? But I also think it's fun. I think it's really well done. I think it's inspiring. I appreciate so much of it, and I think there's you know, I think it's like you said earlier, it's refreshing, or someone said, Joe said, it's very refreshing. The storytelling and the reality of it and the way it all puts together. It ends up being one package.
Yeah.
And that's just really rare. I can say, like, driving around or walking around our neighborhood around holidays, like the number of inflatables that were not a Frosty the Snowman, but were Bluey based. That was the inflatable of choice in our area. And I'm still rising. Like my kid doesn't consume a ton of media at this point, and this will become a bigger part of our life. But in the future, I mean, like that sets the bar pretty crazy. It's like
Yeah.
it's not gimmick based. And I think a lot of times when something's gimmick based, or like quoting a comedy movie and like an R-rated comedy movie from like 2003, it's like quote, 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 ha ha. And the way that we revel, way that we revel in reproducing media in a group. Whereas there's this rare quality, and it happens for a lot of things that are just so well crafted and how it all puts together, where you just say, yeah, that was really good.
Damn it, that's so good.
Yeah, Bluey's never in a crosswalk like I'm walking here and then winking at the parents, you know?
Yeah,
right.
I'm Bluey in the face. I've told you 1,000 times. I'm Bluey in the face over here.
You can see how this could hit close to home for parents like y'all. I think from my perspective, the show is all about play. I mean, we talked about how that's just like the core of what's happening in most of these episodes, and how that's how these kids are literally like forming the foundations of how to think and how to interact and how to form their own inner selves. And when the parents come in, it's about how are they monitoring or viewing or interacting with that play in a way that best encourages the good stuff, discourages the bad stuff. But then I think, I mean, that's half of what I got out of this. And then the other half is like from the production side of things, just the team making Bluey, like how much of a feat that is.
So many feet.
Matt, I was thinking about making Detective Lenny for Puppy Songs. So we have we have three seasons of this show on Puppy Songs where we had to like write episodes for a TikTok length, which was like 30 seconds or so. 1 minute at least. And so much of it was us just like staring at a script and figuring out like what comma or what syllable to cut out here and there. It's very much that with this show, but figuring out like how do you get these core human concepts whittled down to something that is still packing like an emotional punch within like a 6-minute interlude or whatever.
Yeah, there is nary a dud in the 150 some odd episodes in their repertoire, because every episode says something. Every episode has something for anybody, for everyone, And yeah, it's a testament to just how accessible the show is to the gamut of people who consume it: parents, kids, grandparents, people without kids, people thinking about kids, people who want nothing to do with kids. Like, there's still something that anybody could get out of this.
For
Yep.
sure.
And taking huge swings on certain episodes, and other times they're kind of just letting other pieces do the heavy lifting of, like, either be the score or the animation or both or any combination.
Mhm.
Um, a thing that I found interesting is that not every, everything that comes out that is consumed is met with some sort of opposition. Of course, hard to think of, like, how could there ever be any opposition to this wonderfully innocent, enriching show? But of course there is. The only backlash that the show gets from maybe older generations or other types of, I don't know, parenting styles, is that those kids are disrespectful. There is, you know, the blind obedience is not present to the parents knows all, so, like, you better listen to the parents. Don't
Mm.
dare talk back to the parent. Like, that's the only kind of
Hmm.
back this show gets, is that, but it's obviously they're not the target audience, because it's like, well, you're obviously don't get it, dude.
I
So
mean, essays have been written, I'm sure. I wonder if you could argue that the show is more about like these parents trying to get the kids to respect themselves
mhm.
and each other, as opposed to like respecting
Wow.
Whoa,
these like higher ups. I don't know.
Wow.
Joe.
It's about redirecting respect stuff.
No respect over here.
No respect. The end of every episode is Bluey
Just
just
Bluey
doing
going, "Ooh."
Bluey doing
Different.
a quick
It's like,
five like
look
Seinfeld.
like I blew it again.
I Blueyed it.
What's the
Yeah.
deal with?
Okay, this is a great parallel. We'll do a quick little jaunt here to children's TV corner. I don't have a
Mhm.
cutaway gag for this one.
The children's TV corner. Have we been to this corner before?
This is the fourth unexplored corner to the room.
Oh, cool.
So I wanted to talk about, I'm sure you guys have seen the meme that, once in a while, every generation or some generations get, the blue dog that guides the children of that generation. When it was ours, us as kids growing up, and maybe the early elder Gen Zers, it's Blue. Yeah, Blue's Clues.
Mhm.
Um, and then these kids, these Gen Alphas, they get Bluey. And there's some other blue ass dog from Hanna Barbera era that I don't even know who the fuck it is.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
When I was
surely,
growing up, there was a blue dog in a series of paintings by a man named Rodrigue from Central Louisiana. Or maybe he's from Lafayette. And he
Oh,
would paint this blue dog, and it looked like a chihuahua, and the dog would be maybe by a saxophone. Maybe the dog would be in front of a house. And it had a very style. Look up the Rodrigue blue dog in Louisiana culture. And this was the blue
will
dog
do.
I grew up with.
So this
Um,
dog took care of you.
looked a lot like Lenny, actually. It would just be a blue Lenny if you had to
That's
if
cute.
you need something to picture. It's a
a
blue
blue
impressionist.
dog.
Yeah, and this is it's a part of Louisiana culture.
And it was
So
Terry Roderick. Got it. So every generation has a blue dog that kind of takes care of them, which is fun. But I wanted to kind of talk about just like modern children's programming. So, like, Matt, you and me are familiar with one subset. Joe, you're familiar with another with your nephew and nieces.
Mhm.
So, like, how Bluey stands in contrast to some of those other pieces. Like, obviously, we're giving a big round of applause here to Bluey, of just like, this show's got it all. It's good. This is Michelin level. But there are obviously garbage. There's plenty of garbage out there that kids can consume. Coco Melon is one. Uh, Blippy is another. I think is just god awful for kids.
My nephew's obsessed with Blippi. Yeah.
Blippy's the worst.
I
It's a grown adult pandering, playing down as a kid, just like giggling to himself,
It's
and
a lot.
it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Never seen it.
Yeah, avoid it.
At all costs, be like, actually, you know what, Champ? Let's see something else. Let's see Blippy. Oh, how about let's try Bluey again?
Old champ.
Old Champ, like
Man,
the
old.
dog food, like the dog food. Point him in the other direction. But there's another beacon of hope out there for kids these days, and that is Ms. Rachel. Now, Matt, you are again newcomer to the Miss Rachel sphere, and
But it's Ollie's favorite.
right, because he's at that.
Imagine.
Imagine that he's at that age of like super sponge mode
Mhm.
of like influence me, teach me. I
Mhm.
am ready to do phonics.
Mhm.
I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
And it's something about like the kids are going to be all right if with Bluey and Miss Rachel leading the charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally glad someone's teaching them phonics still.
Thank God. Yeah.
Someone's got to.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
mean,
mean, go ahead.
well, I mean, yeah, I watched a couple clips of Miss Rachel before this, and it's definitely like the learning style of kids shows where like you're directly addressing the kid
Yeah.
as opposed to Bluey, which is
It's more about play.
you're teaching, but you're also teaching within a story,
Yeah.
and it's not like we're addressing the camera or anything like that. And I wonder if there's like an evolution of that through kids shows through the ages, where you can start with something like a Miss Rachel or a Sesame Street,
Mhm.
where we're literally like learning letters, and then that having something have a narrative structure being like the next step there is
Mm.
interesting, because it's like, okay, now I'm going to start to pay attention to and understand something that isn't directly addressed to me, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like as a watcher instead of just like a student.
Yeah. Something clicks in their brains one day of just like, I need different kind of stimulation. And there are certain segments in Miss Rachel where, and that's where like pairing it with like books and storytelling kind of gets them ready for observing a parallel, like a linear story or something like that. Um, but yeah, one day they're ready to try something different. And one day, Matt, Ollie will be ready for like, yeah, let's try. I want to only consume shows that are
Mhm.
episodic, whatever.
Yeah.
Like we haven't revisited Miss Rachel in many a moon,
Mm.
because she's not she's not into that at the moment, which is fine.
Mm.
There's plenty of other stuff for her to consume, but like
Yeah.
for a long time, it was always a Miss Rachel hour happened every single day at the same time. It could have been repeats. It could have been whatever was new. Could have been whatever was streaming live on YouTube.
Mhm.
Which hats off to Miss Rachel for getting that bag and
Yeah.
going over to Netflix exclusive.
That's gonna be crazy.
Because
Yeah.
I'd looked up real quick, what's her net worth, and she's in the many tens of millions worth from all her plays. Joe, I don't know if you looked at that at her YouTube page and kind of sorted by most popular. The most
Oh,
popular video over 1 billion views.
yeah. I was looking directly at that view number and I was like, oh, a million. That's okay. Wait, that's a B.
That's a
That's a
B.
B
Mm.
next to that one. Uh, and then I sat back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll see a new one get posted, and it's like, "Oh, this is 2 days old," and it already is in the millions of views.
yeah,
And they have the long run, and the way those get monetized with having the multiple ads in the same thing, longer stuff. Oh, man. Yeah.
Whew.
It's quite I mean, the production value's gone through the roof in the last, over the years,
yeah.
but,
It,
it's
it's a
it's
true
impressive. It's
It's a
impressive.
true not rags to riches. I'm not gonna call it that because that's
No,
not
they
what
all
this
they
is.
all went to Tish.
They called Tish?
They called Tish. No. I mean, being at the belly of the NYU arts graduates and being in New York City,
Someone was bound
being
to figure this out.
well networked. They were making a lemonade stand in a good lemonade orchard.
Yes. Oh, that is such a great way to put it.
They could still mess
Yeah.
up the lemonade stand. They could totally mess it up and not do well, but they were good lemons in that area.
And they were trying real hard, and everyone could see that. And I
Mhm.
think it was also the natural, like, meeting of the storms of the height of COVID and parents being stuck at home with their kids.
Oh, yeah, that helped them.
I need a helping hand, and it's another person on the screen, and it's kind of like
Mhm.
I forget the style of video or whatever it is, but it's kind of like you're on a video chat with somebody. You're
Yeah.
talking to somebody, and she's addressing the child,
Mm.
Mhm.
There's a
and
rhythm to it.
there's a rhythm and a movement to it, and there's a color, and it feels like the color blue, and
Mhm.
it's great. But I think that had a big sweeping thing to her success as well, um, at that moment in history.
Yeah.
And it's great. She started out, she tried to be a pop star.
Did
Uh,
she?
yeah,
Okay.
she
Oh
was,
my god.
um, yeah, I need to find it. There's clips of her doing like like on the streets of New York, kind of like doing a bop. Um,
Love a
just
bop.
love a bop. It's great. And I think her husband Aaron too tried to do other stuff before and was like maybe getting a little bit stuff here and there. Kind of had the Matt trajectory a little bit, doing musical theater here, a little bit of that. And then now he's master composer, all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
They're doing the thing. They got Johnny Karate, you know. Matt Joe, you familiar with that from Parks and Rec?
Is that Chris Pratt's character on Parks
Yeah.
and
Yeah, he wanted to be a rock star with Mouse Rat, but then ended up doing a kid show.
Rec?
And that's what turned out what he was good at.
Yeah.
And just how it was. She wanted to be a
Uh,
pop star, but turns out she's took her other learnings of childhood development and made it into this incredible thing.
that's what I think is the biggest most impressive part of what they've built and what she's built is that the product is a reflection of her authentically, almost too much. Like it's
Mhm.
her education, it's her child's disability or struggle early on
Mhm.
with phonics and being vocal and words, and just like it's where she was individually, it's where she needed to put her effort as a parent, it's where their talents happen to lie in the
Mhm.
world, in the arts world. And it's just it's the really authentic combination of those things. And it makes sense for her ability to show up and do that product every day. It's her.
Yeah.
She's not trying to be something she's not. And then it's just the degree to which it's grown, and they have new toys and new books, and it's merchandised 6 ways to Sunday,
Yeah.
which is great for them. I mean, that's gonna only it's incredible.
Yeah, and then now recently it's the Netflix deal, and that's of course the natural progression, which you love to see, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's humbling as to how big you need to be to get a Netflix deal.
Yes, how many views do you got on your videos, Matt, for Puppy Songs? Cool. We'll talk when you get Miss Rachel numbers. All right,
Yeah,
click, click,
not there, not there.
click. Well, that concludes this episode of the Bluey. We kind of took a turn and did a little bit of children's programming, but I think this was a great, fun,
Yeah.
well-rounded episode. If anyone could draw a theme, I think it is just authenticity. Came up a bunch. A lot of heartfelt, real. It's the realness
Mhm.
that really stands the test of time. And I think both of these properties, mainly one Bluey, but also Miss Rachel, like those things are gonna, perpetuate, of course. But Matt, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us
Matt.
and,
Thanks
and
for
having a
having
great
me.
conversation. Guest number one,
Thanks for
Uno.
having me as guest number one. It's an honor. I'm proud of y'all. I love y'all, and this is like I'm still catching up emotionally to what it means to be a parent
Mm-hmm.
after the last year, and like it's like processing a lot of stuff. And it's like, hey, do you want to see heavy hitting reflections of it in a piece of media? And it's like,
Supposed to
oh
Buckle up.
drag you through
yeah.
7 episodes of this?
No,
Yeah.
I was already waist deep in it, and it's a welcome thing because it's like
Something to talk about in therapy next time. So,
that's
oh.
we'll be there on Thursday. I'll be there.
Guess what? Guess what they made me do?
Nah, this is an honor. I love y'all, and I'm glad to be here. Glad to
We're
be
Yeah,
so glad to have you,
we
man.
love it, and I'm sure we'll have you back at some point in the future to talk. We'll maybe convince you to do the Marvel stuff one day, but whenever you
How
have
many
more time,
movies are there?
there's like
There's
30,
like
Oh,
30.
I'll
all
just
2.5 hours,
my free time I have.
It's
all that free time,
fully a week of your life.
nonstop, no potty breaks. Um,
Ah,
Joe, where are we heading next? I think we decided that we were probably going to do some fucked up movies. I think is
Yeah,
what we
yeah.
said.
We talked through a couple bit of a segue here. We talked through a couple different miniseries options next. We talked about kind of paying tribute to David Lynch, RIP. Both of us want to
mm,
kind of dip a toe into the Lynch of it all eventually. But as we head into February being, the month of love, naturally we're going to do what we're calling batshit insane miniseries, I quote.
Yeah.
And so Justin asked me, like, what's just out of the blue, like, what's the most batshit insane movie that you've seen? And the first thing I thought of was The Handmaiden by Park Chan-wook. So we're gonna watch The Handmaiden, which is such a cool movie, I think, but also crazy and full of twists and turns. So
And bats.
and bats
Bats.
and the other thing as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And then we'll also do maybe Crazy Stupid Love just because that movie's so fun. Probably not, but I'm excited for that one because I know nothing of The Handmaiden.
oh, you should continue to know nothing.
Good. This is great. And then the one I wanted to bring to the table that I know is absolutely insane is Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So those will be
Oh.
really wild
It's Danny
spread.
Elfman.
De Elfman, yeah, De Elfman coming back. So that'll be great. So yeah, so that'll be on the lookout. We're back. We took a long hiatus. Joe decided to move across the country. um, so we're all still getting our feet from under ourselves. Had to let the holidays do their thing, but we're back. We're going to
Mm.
explore more crazy and fun things that no one has ever seen, listened to, or experienced. It's going to be great. In the meantime, catch us wherever you get your podcasts at Uncultured Universe. I think we still have an Instagram. I don't run it anymore. Maybe Joe does. I'm
Dip the toe.
trying to figure out Substack. Check us out on Substack and some other stuff there. But in the meantime, stay cultured, but maybe uncultured if you want to be cultured again. We'll catch you guys next time. See ya.
Bye.
Slurp.